The title is hyperbolic. It's actually only about some of you. So the newest episode of The Simpsons, it's straight up insane. And I genuinely mean that in a good way. It is truly one of the most out there and wild episodes they have ever done in the show's history. But on top of that, the episode is sort of its own meta-commentary about the show itself, in conversation with its own fan base about their perceptions of the show. It's honestly, to me, one of the smartest episodes of The Simpsons in years, and I had an absolute blast watching it. But I also loved what it had to say about the state of The Simpsons and the way fans have treated the show dating back 3 decades now. And I think on top of all the fun references throughout, there is a ton to unpack about its commentary. So let's talk about it. And hey, if you enjoy this video, not only do I have a handful of other Simpsons videos for you to check out, but we've also covered season 1 and the movie on my podcast, Cartoons That Curse. My co-host Toonrific Tariq and I love The Simpsons, and we're actually about to record an episode about season 33. So if you're curious about our thoughts on the latest era, subscribe, check us out. We appreciate you. So it's kind of crazy to say it, but we're in a little bit of a Simpsons Renaissance. For the first time since I was a teenager, I am tuning into new episodes of The Simpsons pretty much on a weekly basis. I honestly never thought I'd do that again. And I will say up front, you shouldn't go into these new episodes expecting them to feel like a classic Simpsons romp. The fact is that the show has evolved a ton over the past 33 years, and the show we have now is not the same show that we had in the 90s, or the 2000s, or even the 2010s. That being said, there have been some incredibly inspired and exciting episodes over the past year or so, and I cannot sing their praises enough. If you want some recommendations, last season they did a 2-part episode called A Serious Flanders, a full-on non-canonical Fargo homage that is so much fun. There is an incredibly lovely Marge and Homer-centric episode called Pixelated and Afraid, where the pair get stranded in the wilderness. It's probably my favorite episode of the entire show of the last maybe 20 years. I also enjoyed episodes like Bart's in Jail, Boys in the Highlands, The Sound of Bleeding Gums, and My Octopus and the Teacher. In general, the show has just felt a lot sweeter. I really feel like these days I come out of so many new episodes of The Simpsons with this warm and fuzzy feeling, and it's just a really welcome change. The show definitely has a bit of a new direction, and I think this is largely in part due to longtime writer Matt Selman taking over the bulk of the showrunning duties from Al Jean. And in addition to this very sweet tone, Selman has just shown a real dedication to shaking things up, a real willingness to experiment. A Serious Flanders was previously the best example of this experimentation, but now season 34 episode 3's Lisa the Boy Scout has definitely taken over that title. I know I said this about the other episodes, but I can't sing this episode's praises enough. It is just such a wild and fun idea. It starts off feeling like it's going to be your typical Bart vs. Lisa rivalry type of episode, and then suddenly, bam, the airwaves are taken over by hackers who claim to have gained access to Disney's servers and threaten to release years' worth of unreleased Simpsons content.
Stories so ill-conceived, so idiotic, that their exposure would destroy the value of the very IP itself.
So basically the structure of this episode plays a bit like a newer trend we see in TV, a clip show filled with completely new clips, like Morty's Mind Blowers in season 3 of Rick and Morty. But what I think is so great about the way The Simpsons framed this as franchise-ruining scenes is that it's very much in conversation with fan perceptions of countless moments in the show's history. The episode that comes to mind most prominently to me is season 9's The Principal and the Pauper, an episode that substantially changes Principal Skinner's backstory with a shocking reveal, and an episode that many consider to be the beginning of the end for The Simpsons. This new episode playfully teases fans about this attitude by revealing countless show-ruining sequences akin to the big Armin Tamzarian reveal for Seymour Skinner. And I think the most direct parallel is a scene they call 21 Jump Street, in which they reveal that Martin Prince is in fact not a 10-year-old, but a 36-year-old undercover cop with a disorder that makes him look younger, complete with a wife and kids.
I can't do that, Doreen! The police department needs someone inside the school!
Now, this is the exact kind of upending of a character's history that so many fans derided back in season 9, and the episode is filled with fun, non-canonical what-ifs like this. Like, what if Lenny was never actually real?
So Lenny was just a figment of my imagination? I made him up?
What if comic book guy became insufferably positive and actually loved everything?
A stunning addition to the Casperverse. No notes. 10 stars.
What if they revealed that Ralph's real father is Eddie and not Chief Wiggum?
My son's breath smells like cat food.
These are just some of the show-ruining possibilities they pitch, just fully leaning into story ideas that they know fans would hate. And I can't express how much fun I had watching it. In addition to these show-ruining clips, they showed a short series of actual clips from Simpsons history that were not beloved by fans, including Homer intimately making out with a hunk of Euro meat in the shower from season 19's Dial N for Nerder, Marge and Lisa nearly going to Mars in season 27's The Margian Chronicles, Burns' eyes fully popped out from their sockets from season 22's The Scorpion's Tail, Homer's back fat being pulled back in season 19's Husbands and Knives, Homer ducking in and out of toilets, avoiding a bear in season 15's The Fat and the Furriest, and of course the classic jockey reveal from season 11's Saddle Store Galactica.
We are the jockeys are we. We live underground in a fiberglass tree.
Oh, also Homer cooking his own leg from that one Treehouse of Horror episode. I just really love the way that this episode is sort of both poking fun at and embracing the fan base's negative reactions to parts of The Simpsons' entire run. It's something that really only a show like The Simpsons could do with such a long and storied history. But there are two particular sequences that I think really embrace the history of the show and the theories surrounding it in the most fun way. One is addressing the long-standing assertion that The Simpsons somehow predicts the future. But the way they do it is what's most fun. We actually see an older Bart time travel back to the very first episode, Simpsons roasting on an open fire, in order to reveal to the family all of the information that they'll eventually predict in future episodes.
So that you can amaze the world with your uncannily accurate predictions.
Not only is this idea discussed endlessly, but my friends Lydia and James from The Simpsons Theory wrote a great book about it called The Simpsons Secret, and it kinda seems like these hacker characters were designed after them. I mean, this woman looks exactly like Lydia's Simpsons avatar. Go check out their channel if you haven't yet. We've collabed a few times, and I'm sure they're going to have their own thorough breakdown of this episode. They're great. My other favorite sequence is basically fully embracing one of the long-standing theories about The Simpsons, that Homer has actually been in a coma since the events of Bart the Daredevil, when he fell into Springfield Gorge, and that the entirety of The Simpsons after that season 2 episode was just a dream.
The B stories too? I never had a pet lobster. I never went to space!
Okay, but can we just appreciate for a moment how these two sequences so perfectly emulated the old Simpsons cell animation, even mishmashing a newer look for older Bart with the older style from Simpsons roasting on an open fire. I really love this stuff. It would be so cool to see them animate more new episodes in this older style. Okay, now that I've gushed about how much I love this entire concept and its execution in general, I want to go on a little bit of a rant, because I think this is actually a great jumping off point. The Simpsons has been on for a long time, and it has obviously had its ups and downs, and I love that the show is actually grappling with some of these long-standing fan perceptions. But there are some current fan perceptions that are undeniably obnoxious. While this episode was airing, showrunner Matt Selman was live tweeting it and having a bunch of fun, basically playing the role of an annoyed Simpsons fan. He jokingly tweeted, "Let me get this straight. Martin Prince isn't a kid. He's an undercover adult cop pretending to be a nerd in order to expose elementary school criminals. This literally ruins The Simpsons." And, of course, even here he gets inundated with people who think this is actually real and feel the need to hate on modern Simpsons.
I guess I shouldn't be surprised at this point. I stopped watching years ago, but man, that is reaching.
And herein lies my exact point, and something that Selman rightfully points out immediately. He says, "I guess you shouldn't be judging since at this point you stopped watching long ago." This is such a common issue. Fans who stopped watching the show 20 years ago complain about modern Simpsons, even though they have now stopped watching the show longer than they ever even watched it in the first place. These people have absolutely no idea what modern Simpsons is like now. Their perception of modern Simpsons is rooted in the late teens, early 20s seasons-wise. And it's not to say that modern Simpsons is perfect, but it is to say that most of the show's most vocal critics actually have no idea what the they're talking about. Over the summer, a Simpsons Disney Plus short came out, and admittedly, I'm not a huge fan of those, but because of one offhanded line in the short, this post went viral, claiming that modern Simpsons is doing Homer dirty, basically the long-standing jerk-ass Homer criticism. That stupid-ass tweet got over 300,000 likes, but if any of those 300,000 people had bothered to watch the latest season of The Simpsons, the literal most modern Simpsons there is, they'd realize that currently, Homer is actually an absolute sweetheart, maybe sweeter than he's ever been in the show. Fortunately, my homie The Real Jim's made an excellent video about this called Jerk-Ass Homer is Dead that you need to go watch if you haven't seen it. I'll link it in the description. He really just tears this entire perception down in the most perfect way. But this is a real issue in the fan base. They complain about things that just aren't the case anymore. We have fans still complaining about the principal and the pauper nearly 25 years later, which is just so genuinely embarrassing, especially because it's actually a great, hilarious episode, and they've barely referenced its events canonically ever since. There are countless things in the show's history that have been contradicted canonically. The show has been on for over 700 episodes. They should have weird experimental episodes that try out their things. The Principal and the Pauper is one of the earliest examples of this. And this is also one of the things that is injecting new life into these latest couple seasons of The Simpsons. Trying out their things like this weird meta take on show-ruining moments, or an episode entirely surrounding Marge and Homer being stranded in the wilderness with no B-story, or a wild two-part homage to the Coen brothers and Fargo. Hell, this season we're actually going to be getting 2 Halloween episodes, including a full-length episode parodying Stephen King's It with Krusty as Pennywise. In fact, the upcoming It episode is even going to feature fan artwork of Krusty as Pennywise during the end credits, and this is just another example of the show really embracing the fan base as a whole, like they did with this entire concept of this episode. Last season's finale even featured a gorgeous couch gag from artist Spike R. Monster in the style of his fan comic Those Springfield Kids. I don't know how much longer The Simpsons will be able to run. I think it's very hard to imagine they'll make it another 10 years, but at this very moment, I really love what they're doing. They're shaking things up, they're embracing the fan base, they're experimenting, and they're delivering really genuinely heartfelt stories. I can't tell you how many times the end credits come up, and I just have this warm, fuzzy, full heart and a huge smile on my face. If any of this has interested you or resonated with you, maybe check out this latest episode or watch some of the episodes I mentioned throughout. The show will never be what it used to be, and it shouldn't be. It's been 33 years since the show began. Times have changed. TV has changed. But that doesn't mean that The Simpsons can't still be something worthwhile. If you enjoyed this video, please check out some of my other Simpsons videos. I tend to talk about the earlier golden years, as they call them, but I'm proud of the videos I've made, and I'd love for you to check them out. Thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned for more. Peace.
Johnny! Two challenges!